In Los Santos Vice, we'll be giving you all the information you need to become an expert on street gangs in San Andreas. We have different influential gangs across the state. Contrary to popular belief, there are hundreds of street gangs in San Andreas. These gangs are often split up into different sub-gangs, which are called sets or cliques. We're going to take a look at some of the most influential gangs throughout San Andreas, as well as some of the ones that are increasing in notoriety. First, we're going to start off with the families. The Grove Street, the Grove Street families is one of the OG families in San Andreas, starting roughly around the 1960s. The Grove Street families is composed of three main sets. You have Grove Street, the Chamberlain Gangster families, and the Firefly Project families. We got the Vagos, we got the Ballers. Ballers is also broken up into three main sets. You have Rolling Heights, Eastside Ballers, and now the Grove Street Ballers. We have the Los Aztecas, also in San Andreas. Outside of those major gangs there, you have motorcycle clubs, you have other street gangs popping up left and right, not to mention the Costa Nostra, the Mafia in San Andreas. So join us as the team here at Los Santos Vice take you on a journey with the underbelly of San Andreas. Yes, Vinewood, a fantastic place to come visit. San Andreas has a lot of amazing views, atmosphere, party, food, everything that you need. However, when the sun goes down, San Andreas becomes something different altogether. Stay tuned. One of the key things about gangs in San Andreas are gang colors. All gangs have their own colors. Will represent their colors to the fullest, wearing their colors and decking out everything they do associated in those gang colors. There simply isn't enough colors in San Andreas. All the gangs have their own colors. All the major gangs have their own. I'm sorry. All the major gangs have their own colors, with the smaller gangs usually copying those colors or colors of major allies. They usually operate within a territory of their allies as well. In San Andreas, you're going to see a lot of different gangs wearing similar clothing or similar clothing type. So, as we take a look at some of the most important gang colors, you'll see guys such as the Vagos. The Vagos, that is one of the Hispanic street gangs. They wear colors such as bright yellow. The families, as mentioned before, they wear dark green. We have the Yardies. The Yardies wear colors like, blue, yellow, things of that nature. Ballers, another prominent gang, they wear purple. The various Los Azteca crews, they wear different shades of blue. Now, a good question for someone who's not initiated is, why do street gangs, wear their colors, or how do they regard their colors? Street gangs do not hold their colors to the same level of worship as motorcycle clubs do. For example, with that being said, street gangs, they may tend to be a little bit more fluid in some of the things that they wear, but they do take their colors very seriously. So you'll see a gang in red that have red cars, red shoes, red hats, things of that nature. But sometimes they'll mix it up. So when it comes to bikers, they are a lot more strict, and we're going to get into that in our next episode of Los Santos Vice. There will always be rivalries. Unfortunately, not all street gangs get along, and some of them really, really hate each other. When two street gangs have a strong dislike towards each other, they are said to be beefing or in a feud. Should you ever find yourself wearing the colors of a gang that is in the middle of a beef, Watch out, be careful, because enemies of that gang will target you simply for wearing the gang's colors, even if you're not affiliated with any gangs whatsoever. Even more concerning is that gangs will not take kindly to non-gang members wearing gang colors, which at this point is practically any color. Some gangs, especially mid-tier gangs, will adopt a no bang, no brass policy, essentially meaning that unless you're a member of the gang, you can't wear that gang's color. And if you do, supposedly bad things will happen to you as a result. For the most part, it's very rarely, outside of the gang territories, you'll be harassed or something will actually happen. However, when you're inside of a gang territory, it's more likely that you may be targeted simply for wearing the wrong colors. Unlike most criminal organizations, street gangs usually will represent their colors everywhere. Their colors will usually be gang color. Their cars will usually have their gang color logos and etc. Some street gangs take this further, but most represent their gang colors. They kind of see it as a prideful duty, and they want to do so at all times, whenever they can. Many street gangs, especially mid-tier and low-tier street gangs, will gather in a car that is of a gang color and possibly, deck it out, uh, put rims on it, put gang logos on the car, and then drive it to enemy territory, where they'll simply leave the car and just walk away. This is known as tagging. To leave a car on the street is to tag a street. To leave a car in an alleyway is to tag an alleyway. To leave a car in a driveway is to tag a driveway. Simply driving a car through gang territory does not necessarily count as a tag. It only counts as a tag if you leave the vehicle in a location. So this is simply to kind of show ownership of that particular location. So if you can imagine, this will cause a lot of issues between gangs because tagging is something that most gangs don't take very kindly to. Tagging is kind of seen as a non-violent attack on another gang, simply because it doesn't necessarily mean somebody's getting hurt, dying, or anything of that nature. But when someone takes a gang affiliated car and then drives into a gang territory and leaves said car, then of course the gang that controls that territory, they're very reluctant to be seen in said vehicle. But the only way to kind of remove the disc or remove the tag is to move the vehicle. So in doing so, it's very possible that they can be mistaken by an enemy and then be harmed. Or it also shows the community that this area is now owned by this gang. So it kind of gets a little bit confusing, and also it's just not a very powerful look for the home gang. However, tagging is done by gangs on their own territories to kind of let the civilians know who controls that area. For example, over in Grove Street, you may see more purple cars, kind of hanging around, whereas further on down the road there in Davis, you may see more green cars. Tagging is usually not done by more organized gangs or more higher ranking organizations such as motorcycle clubs or the mafia.